you to find your peace. But a good death only comes after a good life.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Owe. I got my co-hosts, two of them today. We got Dustin, we got Chris. We're going to be giving our spoiler review of John Wick 4. The Baba Yaga is back. This is not even arguably, point blank, period. This is the best film of 2023 so far. It's not even close. It's going to be hard to top John Wick 4. And there's a lot of movies coming up, but I love the shit out of this movie. This was action-packed. The fight choreography, the stunt work, the cinematography, the characters. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I'll let my co-hosts go first. Who wants to go first? We'll go with Dustin. Give your quick thoughts and review of John Wick 4 before we break this movie down.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That was awesome. This movie was everything, though. This had great storyline, badass action scenes. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. That's going to be hard to top, even though I know there's going to be a lot of movies coming in here. But it's going to be hard to top as probably the best movie I've seen so far, even though it's early.
This could be the Top Gun of 2023 so far in terms of, action movie spectacle blockbuster of the year. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to top. Chris, thoughts on John Wick 4?
Yeah, dude, it was freaking awesome. I think it's number one out of all four movies, and that surprised me. Usually, quality goes downhill from the first one and on, but this movie and the action, cinematography, fight choreography, everything was badass. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, badass is one word to sum up this movie. But the thing about what I loved about John Wick 4 is that it took time to set up the story and characters. I felt like in part 3, we kind of just jumped right into the action because it left off straight out of part 2 and everything. So we're just action, action, action. Where part 4, we get the opening scene. This movie has like a Western vibe. It's kind of prevalent throughout the whole movie, kind of. It opens with like a sunset, him riding through the desert. I mean, the cinematography and everything in that first opening scene with the sun, pretty awesome. But yeah, the story and the setup of John Wick 4 was what set it apart from the last two movies for me. I was way more intrigued with what's happening with Winston and the concierge, aka Lance Reddick, who, by the way, R.I.P. Lance Reddick. I don't know if this was the last role he was ever in, but he was an integral part of John Wick 4, and it's sad to see him go in real life, and it was sad to see him go in this movie. He didn't last long in John Wick 4 because the Marquee, played by Bill Skarsgård, who is the main antagonist in this movie, he's taken over. He's part of the high table, and he's got a vendetta against John Wick. He doesn't only want to kill John Wick, he wants to erase the memory of John Wick.
It reminded me like of Vince McMahon in WWE. You just hated him. He was the boss. He was a top guy representing the table. And he goes in hardcore against the Continental, right? And basically blows that bad boy up. And it just was like a ransom for John Wick. Like, here's a message to you.
Yeah. Chris, you want to say anything about the Marquee before we?
Yeah, the Marquee, dude. First of all, he has some badass suits. Properly
the fashion in this movie was on point. The fashion in this movie was on point.
Yeah, every character and every faction had a pretty unique style and personality, and just fresh outfits in general.
That's not his natural accent, right? That's not.
He's not French. No, he's not a Frenchman.
Okay. Yeah, but the way he, read his lines and pronounced his words definitely gave him a little distinction for being a bad guy. Like, I haven't heard a character sound like that before. And he definitely played the part well. Like, you definitely got that he was the head honcho. And I think it was funny. Almost every line was always like a quote or something by him. So I thought that was pretty funny every time. But yeah, definitely badass.
Yeah, and he, like I said earlier, like his vendetta against John Wick is not only, killing him, but it's destroying everything, which is his friends too, which were introduced to Hiroku Tsunada as Koji, his buddy in Osaka, and you got Kane, who by far Donnie Yen stole the show for me. He was my favorite character of the movie. And the Marquee hires Donnie Yen, aka Kane, to be his main hunter for getting John Wick, which we learn like there's a history between John Wick, Kane, and Koji in Osaka, where we get like I said, we get some time to explore the story and the characters before we jump into the main action scenes. And the first main action scene is in Osaka, Japan, which was awesome. We got that cool. It was like the Japan version of the Continental, because like you said, Marquee blows up the Continental owned by Winston, kills his concierge, aka Lance Riddick. So R.I.P. Lance Riddick.
Well, one thing that you skipped over though was that we learned really quickly with the Marquee and also with Kane that the table likes to definitely use, if you don't do this for us, we're just going to kill people around you. And everybody just falls in line with the table. With Kane, they threatened to kill his daughter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a secret organization. It's kind of run like the mafia, kind of run like world governments. Yeah. But it just has the style and the characters that make it more interesting than the shithole organizations and shady governments that do control the world. So yeah, of course they hold you're pretty much selling your soul to the devil, which all these assassins kind of do. That's why they all have to fall in line.
You said it right there, because it's like it's definitely like the mafia, but in this movie we finally get to see how the mafia works.
Yeah, so yeah, I do appreciate the setup that this movie took and its approach to introducing the characters and everything right before the big action set piece in the Osaka hotel, where we're introduced to Koji and his daughter, who's his concierge. We get to know a little bit more about their father-daughter relationship. And I mean, we're introduced to Mr. Nobody, the tracker assassin, who is a little bit mysterious. He had his badass dog with him. And then we got all these forces coming into this Osaka hotel for the first big action set piece, which it did not disappoint. You had bow and arrows, you had gunfights, you had fist fights, you had John Wick, you had Hiroku Tsunada, you had Donnie Yen.
Swords, dude.
Swords, nunchucks. I mean, I think this was the first action scene you see. This is the first time we see John Wick use nunchucks.
And ninja stars. They had ninja stars too.
Surprisingly, ninja stars. This was the first introduction, but that action scene was awesome. Just the the Japanese aesthetic. They're fighting in the hotel. They're fighting outside in the temple area. It had like a Kill Bill feel to it. Yeah. So it was awesome.
For me, the fight scene that was the best out of all, even though there was like a total war in that hotel, it was with Kane, Donnie Yen, and he was using the doorbells. One thing he didn't explain was Kane's blind. So Donnie Yen's character, Kane, is blind. And
not the first time he's played a blind man. He was blind in Rogue One, too. He was a blind badass in that movie. So
yeah, and the fight scene in the hotel for me was when he threw these little things all over the wall, and we're like, what the hell is this? We thought they're bombs because that's usually what they are. But no, they were doorbells. They were motion sensor doorbells. And when one of the guys would drop in, it was to give you a doorbell sound, and then he just knew where to go and attack. It was awesome. It was great.
He was so smooth with the combat. He was like nonchalant. He's blind, but he's so chill about the way he approached every situation. Like, he was cool, calm, and collected throughout the whole movie. Like, his whole demeanor, his attitude. Donnie Yen was the fucking man in this movie. Now, 4 movies in, and it's still satisfying watching John Wick double tap his enemies. Like, whenever there's a downed opponent and he's still breathing, he's going to catch a headshot. Everyone's catching a headshot in this movie, so. Get it bloody. Yeah, that scene definitely delivered, and you had, Donnie Yen versus Hiroku Tsunada, that was a good fight scene with the swords. Unfortunately, Hiroku Tsunada does die. His daughter
always dies.
He always
dies.
He always dies. I was actually thinking about this. Hiroku Tsunada, he's one of my favorite actors. He's kind of like the Asian Sean Bean. Like, whenever he's in a movie, you kind of expect him to die in some way.
He dies. He died in The Last Samurai.
Last Samurai, Sunshine.
He died. He died in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
He dies. He just always dies.
Yeah. I know, like, we're skipping ahead. John Wick supposedly dies at the end, but I'd like to see a prequel down the line, maybe with like Donnie Yen, Hiroku Tsunada, and John Wick in their prime, because they do insinuate that they were boys back in the day and they had some missions together. So that'd be a cool prequel to explore if we ever go down that road, because there's a bunch of spin-offs that could be generated in this franchise. But yeah, let's move on to, I mean, we're jumping all over the place here. The Osaka action scene was off the chain. Definitely not the best. There's some way more like just creative action scenes that come on down the line, which and that's where we get to Berlin and he has to do a side quest in order to get that seal where we get that badass club scene, the second major action set piece of the movie, that club in Berlin where we meet what's his name? What was the Russian kingpin, as Chris called him in the movie theater, who is played by Scott Atkins, by the way, who is martial arts action star. You couldn't tell by the fat suit he's wearing, but that was Scott Atkins in that fat suit. That's why he was able to move and keep up with the moves of John Wick, even though the guy was, 10 times heavier than him. So that was a fun fact. I had I knew I recognized that actor somewhere, but definitely with the fat suit, it was hard to tell. But Scott
I've
Atkins,
never
man,
seen that guy before.
He's in a bunch of movies. You'd be so he's like Michael Jai White, that type of action star in a bunch of straight to DVD action movies. But that scene was awesome though. Like the way it looked, the water running, just the cinematography, the lighting. There was a lot of like slow-mo shots during that scene.
Dude, that reminds me, dude, the poker scene when they're playing the card game and it comes down to Donnie Yen, John Wick, whatever, Russian Kingpin and the tracker dude, and they're all just at the poker table and it comes down to a card game of who kills who and what their motivations are. I thought that was a pretty cool little scene to slow things down and get them all together at one table.
Yeah, that was a good break in the action. And like I said, this is almost a 3-hour freaking movie. And I actually liked the slow parts because I found the story and the characters intriguing in this movie. So, when it came down to the action, anytime it slowed down, and gave us time to breathe, I welcomed it because I was, interested in the story and the world around it. Because, like Dustin said, they did some great world building in this fourth installment. So
that poker scene, it just reminds you that these guys are just highly trained killers, but they're just gentlemen at it. There's just a set of there's this high code that they follow. There's these rules that they abide to before they just go killing each other or trying to kill each other and killing other people. There's just it's a great code of conduct among these guys that it's just was so amazing to see played on film. And then it's going straight to war.
Yeah, I think that's another like callback to the Wild Wild West with them playing a card game. It wasn't poker, but it was still a callback to Wild Wild West movies and stuff like that. So
yeah, like I said earlier, this John Wick 4 has a constant like Western theme throughout the whole movie, especially with the last showdown at the very end. But yeah, that club scene in Berlin was sick. It led to John Wick getting whatever he needed to do in that side quest to become a family so he could qualify to duel the Marquee, who he had that really cool scene with the tracker too. He tests the allegiance of the tracker with the knife scene in the hand. Remember that part?
Yep.
So
yeah,
that,
I love the close up of the hand being ripped away from the knife.
Yeah.
There was a couple next to me. They're on a date and I can hear the girl like just sort of grimacing because it was pretty graphic. It was really cool.
Yeah, you got to see it. We got Winston and Lawrence Fishburne's character, the king of the Bowery, show up. They give John Wick his classic white and black suit. It's got the state of the art Kevlar suit, which if you're watching these John Wick movies and you're complaining about it not being realistic enough, you need to get up and leave the room because this is the fourth movie. If you're still complaining about like, well, that's not realistic. I mean, what have you been watching for the last, 4 movies?
Yeah, it's definitely not realistic when you count John Wick getting hit by a car or falling on a car 10 times and still getting up like fucking Superman, dude. Like,
yeah, you're supposed to believe these suits, like all these fresh ass suits are just, straight up bulletproof. You're just going to have to go with it. And, it's the fourth movie. If you're complaining about realism.
Part of the world. But, we skipped over, I thought it was a slow part of the movie, but it was beautiful, which is where Winston is walking through this hallway full of this amazing artwork. And then he confronts Marquee and they actually kind of go over the rules of the duel. I mean, I'm not an artist or an art lover myself, but it was just cool. It was like almost like a 30-second walk scene, right?
Yeah.
And Winston walking through that museum, but it was just the way they shot it was really great.
I think those are all like actual, like, well, obviously they're like real art pieces and they probably represent important times in history or pivotal moments that kind of
that play into it,
relate to the movie, especially when the Marquis standing in front of one and looking at it. I'm sure it's like a change in power or something he wants to achieve or aspire
Yeah,
to, whatever's happening in that painting. The way they set it
Winston
up was
said it.
cool.
Winston said it when there was when Marquis was talking about. He said he looked at the page like, oh yeah, the this is about what happens when you let tyranny come through or something like that.
Yeah, it had to do with the French Revolution, I think, or
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like Winston, he's a good character. He plays into the Marquis' ego to challenge John Wick in this duel, which he's not even participating in the duel. He chooses Kane to be
yeah,
his man to do it. So
yeah.
kind of a
And,
bitch move, but
and
that's
I
the
think we move
Marquis for
forward
you.
to the rooftop scene where they like sign their lives away or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that. They have like
that's where I'm at
No,
right
real
now.
quick, but that was like a little twist. Like we thought the whole time when they're setting up the duel, it was going to be John Wick versus the Marquis. But then all of a sudden, when they're at the table with each other, he nominates Donnie Yen, and we were, no one knew that you could nominate, or we didn't even know what nominate mean. And then I guess they explained it that Donnie Yen was going to fight for him. So that was a cool little
yeah,
mini twist, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah, the Marquis plays into his true villainy, not even fighting his own battles, which sets up the grand finale. But it's not just gonna be a duel. It ain't that easy. Not in the world of
Mhm.
John Wick, because the Marquis, he's a dirty player. He's like we said, he's the Vince McMahon of the organization, and he puts out a hit, alerts all the assassins in the area that John Wick's in town. And before sunrise, before the duel, he's trying to stop
Yeah.
John Wick from getting to that duel because if he doesn't make it, he dies. So it's like kill John
Mhm.
Wick before sunrise, and you get paid 25 mil. And as the night goes on, the
Yeah,
bounty keeps getting higher and higher, especially with the tracker always
yeah.
negotiating for a higher rate with the Marquee. But all the action scenes prior to this were great, right? This is,
Mhm.
but it didn't set it apart from the other John Wicks for me. The story did, but the action scenes, I was like, the action's pretty good. But once the first action scene hit in Paris, and we just have to go through a gauntlet of John Wick trying to survive the night to get to that duel, the gauntlet that he has to go through to get to that church to fight the Marquis for his freedom or whatever, man, this is when the action really set itself apart from all the other films, even though they've all been great and they all had their unique twists. I mean, the choreography, the stunt work, it was amazing, especially that roundabout scene in the middle of
Yeah.
Paris in traffic. Chris,
They
I know you and I were jumping up and down during this scene because it
Dude,
was
the
so
music,
enjoyable.
the
It had cars,
soundtrack was
guns, everything.
awesome.
I've been saving this, and I don't know if you guys ever noticed this. And maybe this is where John Wick World sort of is part of all this crazy scene in Tokyo, right? Crazy scene in Paris. Where the hell are the police? Because you got guns going everywhere. Every other movie you'd see police cars coming everywhere. In the world of John Wick, there was not one sight of police. And these fight scenes go on for like almost 30 minutes. Nobody bothers to call 911. And I'm like, hey, there's bombs and people are throwing knives and stars at everywhere. And especially in Paris. I mean, in Paris, they're in public fighting. They're throwing bodies across into buses and everything. People are getting run over and dragged. Not one sight, not one siren going in the streets. And I'm like, this is definitely John Wick world.
What kind of
Yeah.
police would want to mess with these assassins, though? The police force
They're
would
the
have to be
last
trained.
shot, dude.
Ain't no
Still,
police gonna
Wait a
want to mess
second.
with any of these assassins.
I mean,
It's
still,
funny.
yeah, but I mean, they don't even show up. Nobody even calls. You don't
That's a
see
good
them on their
point.
phone.
That's a good
I
point.
tell you what, and in all the movies, I think there was only one police officer. And if you guys remember, it was in the very first movie, and the police officer shows up to John Wick's door and asks if anything's wrong, and John's like, "No, it's a normal day," and the cop's like, "All right, have a good day," and that was it.
That was the
That's
only
yeah,
police officer ever in the series.
yeah, that
I
I
mean, I
remember.
guess,
I didn't
yeah,
see
because
it.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
The very first John Wick had the police officers. That's about it.
yeah.
We never see any law enforcement in any country ever again. So that's a good call.
yeah. I mean, I can't believe you guys didn't observe that. I'm like,
I did it,
really?
dude. But that just I think that's a testament to how damn good the movie is. You don't even think about that
I mean,
kind of
yeah,
stuff. Like
they
it's
are
just
in their
so
own world. I guess that's part
for
of the
the
world.
movie.
Like, there's police just don't show up in these very public fights.
Well, the
Wow.
police aren't showing
Yeah,
up because even the pedestrians and drivers didn't give a shit in France.
yeah,
Yeah,
They
they're
were
still
that's true.
driving,
driving
dude.
around that action scene.
They're just
John Wick's
honking to get
doing
the hell out the way.
drive-bys, getting run over. No one gave a damn. I mean, that roundabout scene, the way it was filmed when he first does that little drive-by, he's driving around the Shelby Mustang or whatever, and he's doing a drive-by and all those guys. And then you got the henchmen show up and they're hand-to-hand combat. People are getting run over. People are shooting each other. It was amazing, man. I want to see how that scene was filmed, honestly. The way that scene was filmed was insane and it looks real. The action, the fights in this movie looked real. I mean, this is how you shoot an action movie. I was telling Chris this, like, if you just pay attention to the movie, every single fight has like a wide focus on the fight. So you could tell that it's John Wick and whoever he's fighting, or it's Keanu and whoever is fighting. There's not one time where you could guess or second question, like, that's not Keanu. It looks like it's Keanu like 99.9% of the time. And that's just a testament to the stunt work and the hard work that all these people,
Well,
actors, stuntmen, all of them put in this movie.
yeah,
Tremendous.
I think where it pays off is director Chad Stahelski used to be a stunt coordinator. So that's where I think part of that he probably, makes that a focal point for his movies to be, A1 when it comes to stunt work.
Yeah, and I mean, that roundabout scene was amazing, but my favorite scene by far is when they take the fight over to that vacant house in France, where John Wick has that shotgun with incendiary rounds, and it has like a one take shot, and does an overhead view of the action. We're looking at a top down view of the action as he's going down the room, just shooting the shit out of people with that shotgun. And then you have the tracker show up with his dog. They come in to join the action. I mean, that was my favorite part of the movie, just the way it was shot. I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was
It was
definitely
like a
original.
Yeah, it was like a GTA top-down view. That's pretty
Old
much
school
what it was.
GTA.
Yeah, old school GTA top-down view. And I don't know if I've seen that done before.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely original. Shout out to the dog because that's an underrated character. We haven't talked about the dog in this movie, the tracker's dog.
And then we had the staircase scene, which was amazing as well. Like he's going up the stairs, whooping ass, and
And
then
the camera's following along
Mhm.
as he's going each level.
and
And he
those
gets to
weren't
the
even like
top.
top.
He gets to the top, right, and then he just falls all the way down. This the staircase scene was actually there was some humor in the staircase scene.
Yeah, and just watching him fall down the stairs, and I mean, it was like a cartoon, and it was played for a comedy bit, but it
Yeah,
still felt right in this world of John Wick.
it
Like
was
it's
it
like
was explained to us that he had 237 or 87 steps, and that was the last sort of obstacle before he hits the cathedral. And then for him to just fall all the way down, it was so comical. It was very cartoonish, like you said.
But then we had Donnie Yen. Kane shows up to help him out. He's like, "Listen, we're going to this duel. We're gonna fight each other, but I'm gonna help you out." And we get them teaming up. I mean, they teamed up in the Berlin club, and they team up again on the staircase. So Donnie Yen, even though he's, I guess, the second antagonist in this movie, he never really felt like it. He was just another
Yeah,
pawn in
yeah,
the Marquee's
I
play.
agree.
But I enjoyed that scene a lot. I mean, you got them teaming up. Like I said, Donnie Yen's combat style in this movie, him being blind and just how smooth he is for a blind man. I enjoyed that scene a lot with them teaming up to get to the duel. And then you had the tracker's dog just bite the nuts off of Marquis'
The
main
main
henchman.
henchman, yeah.
So
The only thing I could say about Donnie Yen was like, I loved him in IP, man. So he definitely held back his skill set in this movie. But you definitely got to see a lot of the speed and that he and the flawless focus of his art through the film. Definitely held back, but it was still cool to see him do what he has to do. But yeah, I agree with you. The stair scene was great. I liked the Tokyo scene better, the fight scene better than this. But this was just the staircase scene has a little bit more comedy to it.
wait, that was your favorite scene? Was the
Yeah, I
Osaka
like the
fight scene? That was
Osaka
your
one.
favorite
Yeah,
one?
I
What was your
do.
favorite fight scene out of this? Before we wrap this and get to the finale, what was your favorite fight scene in all this, Chris?
The roundabout.
The roundabout?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'll go different. I'll say that apartment, the vacant house scene with the top down view. That was probably my favorite part of the
Yeah,
movie. But
yeah.
let's get to the climax, the grand duel, the final duel where they reach the showdown with the Marquee and the Harbinger too. We didn't talk about this character. I like this character, the Harbinger, who is like in
He's just a
charge of.
messenger. He's the messenger, sort of. He plays the arbitrary type of guy. He's the
The
middleman between.
intermediary
Yeah,
between the
the
high table
intermediary.
and
Yeah,
the
played like
Yeah,
Clancy
yeah.
Brown. Clancy Brown plays
Yep.
him. He's in Shawshank Redemption. He's in
Yep.
Starship Troopers. I love that actor. So I'm glad to see him in here as
Was
well.
he
I
in the
mean,
other movies too?
yeah,
No, right? Oh, he
yeah,
was?
he's a
Okay.
character actor. He's great in everything. You'll see him a lot, and I'm glad.
No. In the other John Wick movies, though, what I'm saying.
Oh
I
no,
don't think he
I think this
was,
is the
right?
first time
Yeah.
we ever see him. This is definitely
Yeah.
the first
Okay.
time we've ever seen this character. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this series is bringing in some cool actors, man. Like Scott Atkins, like you guys never even heard of him. I have, and I'm glad they brought him in. And then they bring Clancy Brown in, and even though it's a small role, it's a cool role. But yeah,
Yep.
we have the face off where they have to walk like 30 paces with the pistols with
Yeah,
Don
with the
or
draw.
Kane versus
Those
John Wick.
pistols were cool though. Those pistols are very
Yeah,
old
wait.
school Western.
Let's at least lay down some of the basics of the duel though. So they already had a meeting earlier where they have cards and they take turns. One picks up they first pick the place, what weapons to use, and I think that was it. Was that it?
No, place, time, weapons.
Yes,
Let's keep
time,
it simple.
weapons.
Place, time, weapons,
Mhm.
show up on time or die.
It came out to
That
be
was pretty much-
sunrise. It came out to be
yeah.
sunrise, the cathedral, pistols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on sundown, which just aesthetically, I mean, you had the sun.
Sunrise.
The
Sunrise.
sunrise.
6:03 a.m. was the official
Oh, yeah,
duel
there you go.
time.
Wow, Dustin.
Yeah, that's right. I
with the
remember that.
exact
Notes,
time.
dude.
Dustin's
Taking
showing up to that
notes,
duel.
dude.
That's
He ain't
right.
missing it.
You know he brought his notepad.
Nope.
You know he brought his
Also,
notepad.
before all this, I mean, the tracker's character was okay. I mean, his like Dustin said,
Yeah,
his dog was
He
cool.
was all
but
right.
I didn't.
It wasn't.
I didn't understand like the arc of his character. What was the point of the tracker? He doesn't.
Well-
I mean,
well,
John Wick saves his dog, and then he realizes like, oh, John Wick's not really a bad guy. I guess I'm not going to kill him. Which I'm like, what was the point of this guy, other than
Yeah, I
being?
was really hard for me to understand the tracker too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They-
I mean, I don't think he was meant to be like too much thought into it, but he's just supposed to, another foil, but kind of, neutral when it comes to is he for John Wick or against? And, it kind of makes it out to be where he just wants his money. I mean, that's really what it was all about for him. He keeps him alive,
He-
so the bounty keeps getting higher, so
Yeah.
he can get paid out. But it
He
turns
was
out
he was
that,
definitely important enough to make it all the way to the last scene because he was sort of a spectator in the duel.
yeah.
So he makes it all the way to the finale.
And
but you can tell he is meant to be like kind of an outsider because he doesn't really act like them. So I wonder like how he even came to be in that whole world.
yeah,
So maybe
I
they'll
mean,
expand on that later.
another potential spin-off for another interesting character in this universe, which is this movie is building a lot of potential spin-offs because there's so many cool characters in this universe. All right, let's wrap up the last action scene, or it wasn't really an action scene, it was just a showdown, which for a John Wick movie, this was a nice change of pace. It was like a straight up Western face-off. So I like the way this movie definitely ended. So you got Kane versus John Wick versus Kane, best friend against best friend, due to the Marquee setup. But yeah, we somewhat explained the rules, but we get them shooting each other at 30 paces. Of course, they're tagging each other. John Wick gets tagged, Kane gets tagged. He's getting closer and closer till they're like what 10 feet apart.
You could tell there was something up because these guys are marksmen.
Yeah.
And they're definitely tagging each other on non-vital body shots. I think it was a shoulder, like a side area where there's no real
Flesh
organs on
wound,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So there was something like I don't know what was going on, and obviously we'll get to it. But yeah, you could as they shoot each other, these marksmen, these bullseye, genius guys are just not hitting the mark. And I think even Winston looks at John Wick and says, "Could you just kill him already?" or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there were old school Western pistols, so the range probably isn't as good as it was. I mean,
No way. Those guns were like awesome looking. Come on.
well,
they were-
definitely
Well, they were old school pistols, that's for sure.
I mean,
Single
they,
shot.
They were old school pistols,
But they were still awesome. I mean, remember this guy killed somebody with a pencil. Both these guys were killing these guys were like, non-weapon type of things. And they give them this really cool looking old school pistol and they can't hit each other.
Probably
That's
not from
all.
30 feet or for at least the first couple paces that they were at. But yeah, when they're like the final, like, okay, someone's going to die, they're like 10 feet away from each other. It's obvious that, what's the play here? What's going to happen? And we get the final shot, which Donnie Yen, Kane, does shoot John Wick, and John Wick falls to the ground. And the Marquis takes this opportunity to, take the glory for himself. He's like, all right, John Wick's down on the ground. I've won. Kane makes sure verbal confirmation that, okay, am I free? Is my daughter free? Okay, go ahead and kill John Wick. And Marquis has the gun. He's about to cap John Wick, but Winston calls him out. You arrogant prick. He never shot his gun, which I noticed. I think Chris was asking me like he didn't notice John
I
Wick
didn't
didn't shoot
notice
his
that.
gun, but I was thinking, like Dustin said, John Wick doesn't miss, and there's a reason why he didn't miss in that scene. So I was like, he probably didn't shoot his gun, and sure enough, he didn't. He shoots the Marquis right in the dome piece.
And the
So
Marquee
yeah,
flies
the
back like
hubris of the
5 feet.
Marquis, played against him in that end scene. So Chris, I know you want to say.
No, he got shot, and all you just see is if the camera pans out to a wide angle, and you just see the Marquee fly back like 5 feet. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
R.I.P. Bill Skarsgård.
I focused on the harbinger, because he knew that with the death of the Marquis by John Wick, it was just he mentioned it earlier in the movie that the high table was going to be shook up if the Marquis dies. It was a nice little scene that you could just tell like, oh shit, like this is going to be bad. Because once again, John Wick gets his way. But yeah, I mean that's the reason why now when I saw that now I know why Kane and John Wick basically shot each other purposefully out of bullseye. Sort of like they were throwing soft punches to each other, really making sure that they were hitting the non-vital spots because they were setting up the marquise, I guess.
Maybe it's never really verbally confirmed.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen just wants to have the showdown with John Wick just to get it over with. So I don't know if he was part of the plan or if he knew that John Wick was going to do this. But either way, it happened. Kane's character is free. The high table is shook up with the death of the Marquis. Winston gets his Continental back and pretty much his life back. But John Wick, he shot the hell up. He shot in like multiple places. He fell off a building, which I mean, that's nothing new for him in this whole damn series. But this supposedly was the killer and the end of John Wick. He goes on the stairs and, he dies. He sees his wife in the flashback and he passes out on the stairs and supposedly dies, which I call bullshit. But, we get the funeral scene at the end with Winston and the Bowery King, Lawrence Fishburne, looking over John Wick's grave, who's right next to his dead wife. And on his headstone, it says loving husband, which he did say in an earlier scene, which was also a good scene. It was a good send off to Lance Reddick's character, too, where, on his headstone, he just wrote friend because at the end of the day, that's who the concierge was to Winston, was a friend. And John Wick says, on my headstone, I want you to put loving husband because this all had to do with the death of his wife and the death of his wife's dog. This is how it started.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say
part.
that's crazy how all of this death and destruction in the world came just because of the dog that they killed from his dead wife, and it to be such a simple reason for John Wick to come back, and then all the way to him destroying cities, really, and
Yeah,
destroying this organization all because of a dog from his dead wife. It's such a crazy storyline.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just watching the first movie. I just watched it today, and there's a scene in the first movie where the main bad guy in that movie, he's like, why do we kill? Or in the second movie, sorry, they're like, why is John Wick doing all this, coming killing everybody? And John Wick, he said, that dog represented all he had left from his wife, and the only hope he had left of just having someone, and they took it away from him. So that's why he's on this rampage to this day.
Yeah.
3 movies later, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that headstone saying with the loving husband, it definitely brings you all the way back to where it all started.
Yeah, and the theme of dogs, they keep it with in this movie with the tracker's dog. In this third movie, you had Halle Berry's dogs. So dogs play a big role in this series. And since the first movie, no dog has died. So I respect that. They killed
I
one dog in this whole
yeah.
series, and ever since then, dogs have been whooping ass. So I'll say that.
I'm you call bullshit. I say John Wick is dead. Um, I'm
For
you know
now,
Keanu's what 60
until the Baba
Keanu's
Yaga.
66 years old, 60 some years old.
But come on, man, they're
He's
gonna
gonna
melt.
just be.
I mean, they're gonna
He's like,
obviously melt
if
this
anything, 60.
franchise.
How
They're
old
gonna
is how
melt
old is
this.
Keanu?
They're gonna melt, huh?
Google it
Oh,
real quick.
How old is
Why you
Keanu?
Google that, and while you do that, but I mean, I think they leave it open because um the Harvard or what's the manager or the Bowery King asked the manager, "Do you think he's going to heaven or hell?" And then the manager just looks at him like and just gives him a laugh. He doesn't answer it, so it
no,
kind of
he
leaves
does give
it
him an answer. He
open.
says, "I'm not sure,"
Well, oh well, but I think
which
that
kind
maybe
of
hints towards he's still out there. Like
yeah,
they're just
and
keeping it low, like keeping it
yeah.
low key. John Wick probably wants to disappear, and some's gonna bring him back in the next movie.
Well, it was also Lawrence Fishburne's reaction. He just laughs it off like, "Oh, it was a
Yeah,
joke." Like he's laughing like it's a joke because he thinks, or I think it's insinuated that maybe John Wick isn't dead. That's how I took it.
I
yeah.
noticed something about the Bowery King, which is throughout the whole series he's homeless, and then all of a sudden at the very end he's looking like the prince or the king of something of a country. You guys didn't notice
Well,
that?
because they don't have to hide anymore, really, dude. You know, like
Is
the
that what it
manager
meant?
got.
Well,
Yeah, like
with
the manager.
Winston's got in charge again, so he's probably going to
Yeah,
give a better position to the
yeah.
Bowery King. Like, hey man, quit dressing like a bum. I'm going to give you some fresh fits. You're with me now.
But I do think that regardless, there probably will be a fifth one, and if there is a fifth one, that the high table will actually get to see more in depth on who the high table actually is, because and if not, they left it open ended as well because there's a post credit scenes, believe it or not, where it shows Donnie Yen and then the daughter of oh what's the name? I don't
Koji.
the daughter of Hoji. Um, they're about to cross paths and it just cuts right there. So if they don't decide to go continue John Wick, I think that'll be a spin-off of that, or they can continue on with John Wick. But I definitely think we'll see more of the high table, and they'll probably come into play. And John Wick may actually have to take it down the high table now, and then that could be the end of it. But
I don't
yeah,
think it's just going to be John Wick because, like you said, like at the end credit
yeah,
scene, you get the Kane scene with Koji's daughter about to kill him. We don't know. It cuts off right there, so maybe we'll get a whole movie on that or a spin-off. But this series it's gonna spawn spin-offs galore because I think there's a spin-off already in production with young Winston. We're gonna see how he came
oh
into
yeah, you're right,
prominence
you're right,
with
yeah,
the Continental. So we're gonna have that's definitely in the works and being made. I think there's also a spin-off called The Ballerina with Ana de Armas, which is a prequel. And I
yes.
think John Wick is actually gonna make an appearance in that. So who knows how many more spin-offs we get? Maybe the spin-offs galore until, like Chris said, we're gonna get the high table coming into action again. Like too much chaos is going on. We got to get things in order. So I think it's gonna be a culmination of the return of the Baba Yaga. You can't kill the Baba Yaga. He's coming back some way somehow. But it's gonna be a
I think it's
culmination of
over.
him. It's gonna
It's
be a
over.
culmination of him and a bunch of other characters that they're setting up for this universe. And I think they're going to take down the high table. I think that's how
I
it's
wouldn't
gonna
mind it. I wouldn't mind if he came back. I mean, obviously it's iconic character now with an iconic series, but man, this is such a high note. Let it go. And again, Keanu's getting old now. He does
How old was
most of
he?
the
Did you
stunts
Google
here.
it?
Huh?
How
No,
old? Like he's
he's
got to be like
definitely
60.
60.
He's
No,
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
He's
he's
old, but he
60,
looks
right?
good and he moves well.
He
So who
moves
cares?
well, but I mean, this is the movie, man. This movie was
It is,
flawless.
but
It
I
is a
disagree. Like
flawless movie.
I think the success of this one, dude. There's no way in hell they're gonna not make a John
He
Wick
came back.
5.
Well, he came back for Matrix Resurrections, and
What's-
everybody shitted on that.
but don't bring up the
But
Matrix
that's what I'm
Resurrection.
saying is that it was why would you do and come back when you left it in a perfect, you left it perfectly.
Like,
Money,
yeah,
dude.
dollar
Yeah, money.
signs,
I get
That's it.
that.
dollar signs and innovation because I would have been with you after John Wick 3. I would have been like, let's put this thing to bed. But after seeing what they've done creatively with the stunt work and action in John Wick 4, keep this shit going. I want to see what else you could do until I get to that point where I'm like, you got to put this thing to bed. Because I was maybe kind of feeling that, but after seeing this, I'm like, I want to see more. What else you got? But hopefully it doesn't get too oversaturated, especially with all these spin-offs. But
I'd rather just see the spin-offs and
you
the
just want to see the
prequels.
spin-offs?
I'd rather see the spin-offs and the prequels and move the world forward in that direction and let John Wick go. Maybe
Not
John
me,
Wick
dude.
can
I
come.
want to see John Wick take down the high table, dude.
Maybe
Fuck
John Wick
yes,
can
I
come
want to
back
see
in some of
John
the
Wick.
prequels.
I want to
wanna
see John Wick put a
I wanna see
bullet in
who's
every
in the high
single person
table.
in the
Yeah.
high table's head.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. But all right, let's give our ratings for John Wick 4 to honor the Baba Yaga, to honor the late great actor Lance Riddick. What are we going to rate John Wick 4? I already gave my rating. I gave it a 9 out of 10 in my non-spoiler review. I'll bump it up. I'll give it a 9.4. I'll give it a 9.4. This was a great movie. I can't wait to watch it again.
I'll go. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it at 9. No decimals for me. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, and that's not without disrespect. It's just if I give it a 10 or anything close to a 10, then it's gonna be hard to beat that. This is definitely such a close to perfect, flawless movie. My only issue was the tracker, really not understanding his character, and let's see here. What I think that's pretty much it. Just the tracker was the one thing that sort of was a miss for me on this one. But
Cool
not
dog
flawless.
though. Dog was
Huh?
cool.
The dog was cool, but the settings where they shot at, the fight scenes, the story, flawless, and the cinematography was just beautiful.
Yeah, the colors, dude. I
yeah,
think that's
the
one thing that's
lighting.
underrated. The colors, the lighting,
Man,
the
it was
saturation.
beautiful to watch.
Oh man,
All the John Wick movies look pretty damn good. This definitely
They
looks
do.
the best. But
Yeah.
all right, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris. Give your rating.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
We could
That's
count.
it?
You can't see my hands. All right, 9. Where's the other hand at? All right. Anyways, 9.
Give your
9.2,
rating.
dude.
9.
Is it?
9.2.
9.2. All right, I gave it the highest one. All right.
9.2. Yeah, I would definitely, after seeing, I just watched Owi's short review of it from last night, and it made me want to watch it again after seeing those trailer scenes and all that. Like, I immediately just wanted to watch it again. So that tells me definitely up there.
Yeah, I
Best
definitely
one
judge.
in the franchise, dude. Best one in the franchise.
I agree. This is my favorite one, and then the second, first, and then third. But yeah, I love this movie. I cannot wait to watch it again. Even if it was almost 3 hours, like I loved all the action, especially the ones towards the end. Like the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes were just jaw dropping, just action packed. It was action heaven. If you're an action movie junkie, this movie just blew me away. So, all right, that's our review of John Wick 4. RIP to the Baba Yaga. I'm 100% sure we'll see him again. But anything you guys want to get out of the way before we leave?
Yeah. John Wick is not the boogeyman. He's the guy you send to kill the boogeyman.
All right. I think he is the boogeyman, though, because they've been calling him the Baba Yaga for
Nah,
4
dude, they
movies.
said in the first one, he said he's not the boogeyman. He's the guy you
Did it?
send to kill the boogeyman. Yeah.
All right. I got to rewatch the first one. It's been a while. But, all right. Dustin.
Wish I saw a cell phone with somebody calling the police.
Yeah.
Just damn it, that would have been more realistic, but it's John Wick world. But yeah, definitely that's just the only thing I observed for some reason for the first time in the series, even though they probably never went throughout the entire series. But
Maybe they will introduce like law enforcement. Maybe like they're even more badass than the secret society. Like
maybe because the fight scenes were so in public this time, and you never saw screaming people. So yeah.
Dustin would be the Karen of the John Wick world, dude. You see him in the background calling.
I would be
dude.
I'm the guy like sitting like crouching down in a fetal position behind the dumpster, talking to 911. Trying to get people out there. Yeah.
I'd be the guy with my cell phone because I'm like, the world needs to see these badass fights. People are dying everywhere, but people need to see this shit. That'd be me.
You get hit by a stray bullet.
Then I get hit by a straight bullet or run over by a car in the process. But all right, everyone, that's our spoiler review of John Wick 4. Post down in the comment section below of what you thought of the movie. What was your favorite part? Who was your favorite character? Let us know anything you loved about the movie or you hated. I don't care. Post whatever you want down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. If you like this channel, subscribe to it as well. Ring the notification bell, and we'll see you all next time. See ya.